Mahima Abneesh Roy joining in. He's Executive Director Research at Nuvama Institutional Equities and tracks this space very closely. Abneesh, good morning to you. Do you see this as a temporary issue? The uncertainty continues in Nepal right now. The violence has maybe peaked for now, but no one knows what's going to happen next. How do you see this from the perspective that we are discussing today?
Yeah, thanks and good morning. Yeah, it's almost like a deja vu of what happened in Bangladesh and to an extent in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
But yeah, I think, yes, I agree with what you're saying that it seems like more of a temporary issue. Two ways this impacts consumption. One is, yes, the GDP slowdown will happen, right? Because of lack of a fully and powerful government, which is not going to be there. It's going to be a temporary government. And second is, yes, near-term supply chain issues will be there. But one, I think, correction to what your reporter highlighted, Dabur is not 8% Nepal. It is much lesser. Yeah, I think broadly 3% is the number which I think Dabur, Varun Beverage and maybe ITC to that extent as a percentage of sales is Nepal exposure. And definitely other companies are even below that. So I don't see this as a big impact. And GST rate cuts in India will partially, definitely, and fully reverse this in H2. In September month, we are seeing, yes, summer categories in the September quarter are seeing weak numbers. So for summer categories, Nepal is an additional worry. In Bangladesh, if I see, Marico did not see much of a problem medium long term, but yeah, Imami did see. So I will say, yes, some companies will manage it better, but overall this is more of a temporary blip. We continue to remain positive on Britannia, Bikaji, Hindustan Unilever, Nestle, and to some extent Tata Consumer also.
Abneesh, hi, good morning, Neeraj here. One would believe that, or maybe that could be a belief, that because that economy relies so much on tourism-linked revenues, right? And if indeed that might take a hit because of the developments that have happened, businesses of all nature, the growth would come off. And because some of the businesses, I think it was your note only which highlighted the extent of business percentages presence that some of the FMCG companies might have there, you don't think it could be more than a blip?
Yes, from a GDP perspective, you're absolutely right. There will be an impact on the tourism revenues, on the overall lack of a strong government and supply chain issues. Coming to numbers, yeah, for FMCG, we don't see a big impact because even if we take the higher exposure with, say, Dabur or Varun Beverages or ITC have, now 3% of the business clearly factories will start and supply chain again should become normal after a few days. And so I don't think there's a big impact, right? Ultimately, 97% of the business for even these three companies is ex of Nepal. Yeah, supply chain, there could be a bit higher in some cases. So no, I don't think this is a big impact on FMCG because these are daily consumption and eventually factories will definitely start operation. Initially, companies focus more on the well-being of the employees. So those are shut, but then they quickly restart also. So I don't see a big impact.
Okay, fair call. Abneesh, what's the overall sense though on, one is, sorry, Tamna, if you had a question on Nepal, then maybe that, or otherwise I was
No, I was going to move to GST. Okay, yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, so Abneesh, the question then therefore comes is, we had this large GST conclave on Tuesday, right? The FM attended it, Piyush Goyal, CEA, so on and so forth, a lot of corporates, and everybody seemed to be constructive around the impact of GST on demand and a strong second half. Now, I'm just trying to understand, the overarching belief is that non-discretionary will benefit lower than discretionary. Would that be your assessment too? And are valuations for non-discretionary or discretionary already baking in that positive relative to the non-discretionary?
No, I don't think life is so simple that we can put it in discretionary, non-discretionary. See, in the FMCG, how we see is biscuits and snacks will see real benefit. The reason is very simple. At a 5 rupee, 10 rupee pack, there will be increase in grammage. And the biscuits, for example, the GST reduction is from 18% to 5%, which is a 13% reduction. My sense is most companies will pass it on fully, at least in the initial part, and then based on raw material, they'll see later, which means in biscuits at the lower pack, there is a 13% extra grammage. Now, how biscuits and snacks is bought is in terms of packs. Customer doesn't go to a shop and says, give me a 100-gram biscuit or a 200-gram biscuit. He buys 5 rupee, 10 rupee pack. So in that category, I see a real increase. In categories like toothpaste, for example, or say shampoo, for example, initially they will also add grammage in the lower unit pack, but my sense is from a 1 year perspective, these consumption will even out. So in toothpaste, for example, I don't expect real consumption increase just because of this. Yes, prices will become affordable, so maybe some shift from smaller brands to better brands can happen, but the biggest boost will be within biscuits and snacks. Now coming to question on staples versus discretionary, I think both categories will benefit, because in staple there are other positives in terms of rural demand recovery. Monsoons are good, raw materials in control, we have seen interest rates cut also, we have seen the salary rebates, for example. So I will say both forms of consumption will see benefit, but yeah, in discretionary some categories maybe it's slightly more, but in FMCG I will say that Britannia, BKG, HUL, Nestle are bigger play on GST recovery than some of the plays like Colgate. So we'll prefer those four companies from a GST play.
No, Abneesh, I just wanted to follow up on this increasing grammage. That also has some standards and rules, right? The increase in grammage cannot be random. There has to be some calculation and some transparency on how exactly the price cut is being passed on. And considering that government mandate is clear that people should feel and experience lower prices, how does that now fit in?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. And government is looking at ease of business. So there is no anti-profiting clause formally, but the government has said multiple platforms that they would expect full pass through to end customer. My sense is most of the large FMCG companies will honor that. Now, the second good part is the printed packaging. If you see, that was a big amount which would have gone as a waste. Now government has allowed that ease of business also, that you can use it and you can put a sticker. Now coming to grammage, if you see lower unit packs, 5 rupee, 10 rupee, I would expect that in biscuits, for example, the 13% should get passed to end customer. So Britannia and Parle will just put that, yes, the price point remains the same, 5 rupee, 10 rupee, but now from a X grammage, it will become say 1.13 grammage. So they will put that sticker there. So yes, the rules are fairly clear here, that you should pass it to end customer. There's no formal anti-profiting clause, but yeah, government and industry will look at passing to the end customer fully, and that's why operating leverage can come and margin expansion can happen because of that. And long term, you would see how this thing goes, but near term, I would expect that this is how the full pass through to the end customer will happen in most cases.
Abneesh, fantastic talking to you today. Thank you so much for being with us and giving us those thoughts. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, let's move on.